Hello, this video is a continuation of the Chapter 11 meiosis material. In Chapter 11 we learned about the process of meiosis, which reduces a cell from the diploid state into a haploid state. In humans, this process produces gametes, sperm and egg cells. We call this process gametogenesis. Meiosis is the tool used in the process of sexual reproduction. So you have to produce two haploid gametes. So here we have a paternal gamete and a maternal gamete. So they come from different organisms and they are haploid. They will fuse together in the process of fertilization to produce a diploid cell known as a zygote. This zygote will then go on to go through mitosis to form a mature organism, which is then capable of using specialized cells to produce haploid gametes. And you can see in this illustration, the purpose of sexual reproduction is to increase genetic variability. And it's done through meiosis using synapsis and crossing over that occurred in prophase 1 and independent assortment that occurred in anaphase 1. So here you can see the 8 possible gametes that can be produced from a diploid organism having 6 chromosomes. In humans, the process varies between males and females. In males, it's called spermatogenesis, and we will go over that first. At birth, male testes contain dormant germline cells, and they are diploid. At puberty, gonadotrophic hormones trigger sperm production. Gonadotrophic simply means at the gonad level, so within the gonads, which are in males, is the testes. So when these hormones are produced, the germline cells will go through mitosis to produce primary spermatocytes. The primary spermatocyte then goes through meiosis 1 to produce 2 secondary spermatocytes. Then those 2 cells go through meiosis 2 to produce 4 haploid spermatids. The spermatocytes were haploid as well. Remember, meiosis 1 is the reduction division. So you go from a diploid primary spermatocyte to 2 haploid secondary spermatocytes, and then they go through meiosis 2 to produce 4 haploid spermatids. The spermatids then go through a maturation process, or we can call it differentiation. They change and become spermatozoa, and we shorten that to sperm. This process takes about 64 days from start to finish. In females, the process of gamete production is much different. It is called oogenesis, and at birth, the ovaries in a female contain about 1 million ovarian follicles. A follicle is like a container. Each follicle contains a primary oocyte. So the germline cells have already gone through mitosis to produce primary oocytes, and each one is contained in an ovarian follicle. This process gets arrested at meiosis 1, which means all the primary oocytes actually begin meiosis, but then it's halted or frozen or stopped during meiosis 1. Then at puberty, the same gonadotrophic hormones which triggered sperm production trigger menstrual cycling, and at each cycle, one of those follicles will mature. The primary oocyte inside the follicle completes meiosis 1 and produces 1 large secondary oocyte and 1 tiny polar body. This is the primary oocyte here that has gone through the first part of meiosis 1 anyway. You have a lot of little tiny supportive cells that are surrounding it. That's what that little crown of cells, it's called a corona, looks like. And after meiosis 1, there's a uneven cytokinesis. So all of the cytoplasm is given to one of the new nuclei, the other one receives none. So the uneven cytokinesis means that everything gets given to one side and the other side gets none. So you can see the other side forms this tiny little structure here. It's the nucleus without any cytoplasm, and it's known as a polar body. This secondary oocyte is then arrested at metaphase 2. Ovulation will then occur at about mid-cycle. This is when the follicle releases its secondary oocyte into the oviduct, or otherwise known as the fallopian tube. If it is not fertilized, the secondary oocyte will disintegrate. If it is fertilized by a sperm, it will then complete meiosis II. A second uneven cytokinesis will occur, forming a mature ovum and a second polar body. Here are the two polar bodies here. Now sometimes that first polar body will also go through meiosis II and you end up with 3, but they will all be hanging out here on the edge because of the uneven cytokinesis. They get no cytoplasm, and they will eventually disintegrate. The reason for the uneven cytokinesis is so that the ovum or egg will receive all of the cytoplasm and organelles. It needs to be actually much larger so that when the sperm donates its portion of the DNA, the new diploid zygote can immediately go in through mitosis and begin dividing, and it divides very rapidly, and there is no time to build more organelles and cytoplasm, so it has to have a ton of material, so to speak, in order to go through these first rapid cell divisions that it will go through. So, in summary, looking at the two processes together, you can see where the differences occur. They both begin with germline cells. Then those germline cells will divide through mitosis to produce either a primary spermatocyte or a primary oocyte. This occurs at different times due to females going through this process while they're still in utero, in the uterus. Males go through this process during puberty. Meiosis I produces secondary spermatocytes and secondary oocytes. However, in oogenesis, there is an uneven cytokinesis, so you get one large secondary oocyte and a first polar body, whereas in spermatogenesis, you get 2 secondary spermatocytes. Meiosis II produces 4 spermatids and then 4 sperm, whereas meiosis II produces a second polar body with a second uneven cytokinesis and 1 ovum. And of course, this process doesn't complete unless fertilization occurs after ovulation. And that is gametogenesis, the formation of gametes in males and female humans. And thanks for watching.